There is no legal framework for the EU to recognise a state sponsor of terrorism. You just pulled this antagonistic performance out of thin air. Even the US, who have such a legal mechanism, have refrained from applying the label to Russia. Biden has argued that doing so could impact future efforts to negotiate a peace deal. The European Parliament, instead of pursuing peace and an end to this bloody war, a war that's killing tens of thousands, decimating European industry and jobs, creating soaring inflation and an unprecedented cost of living crisis. Instead of any effort at diplomacy to remedy this disaster, you have voted to call Russia names. The idea that any representative of a NATO member state would label anyone else a sponsor of terrorism before calling out their own state is absurd.
This is my first video update coming to you from Athens, Greece. And I am at the law school here, and it looks like they're celebrating a graduation, I guess, some sort of degree right here at the law school in Athens, Greece. Law celebration here, and right back this way, let me show you here. Right in back of me is where many of the deals take place. So you have a law school right here. You have some drug deals taking place right there, and it's crazy. Only in Athens can you find this. Anyway, yeah. Crazy world, man. Crazy world. So, how about Mike Wallace there? Mike Wallace. He's an EU Parliament MEP from Ireland. I think he's in the same party as Claire Daly, I believe. They're in the same party, but quite a speech there from Mike Wallace. Right on, spot on there. So let's talk about Angela Merkel and an interview she gave to Der Spiegel. And this is generating a lot of talk here, this interview from Merkel. And let me start off with what the BBC says. So the BBC, they have a title, Ukraine War, Merkel says she lacked power to influence Putin. Former German Chancellor Angela Merkel has defended her policy towards Russia prior to the February invasion of Ukraine, saying she had run out of power to influence Vladimir Putin. She said she had tried to convene European talks with the Russian president and French President Macron in the summer of 2021. Quote, but I didn't have the power to get my way, she told Spiegel News. Really, everyone knew in autumn she'll be gone, she said. After 4 years as Chancellor, Ms. Merkel left office in December. She paid a final visit to Moscow in August of 2021 and told the German news magazine that the feeling was very clear. In terms of power politics, you're finished. She added that for Putin, only power counts. That's a quote. I don't know, is Der Spiegel the same as Spiegel magazine? Or is it the same media company that has the both publications? Anyway, this is an interview to Spiegel magazine, Spiegel News. I'm sorry, is Der Spiegel the same as Spiegel News? Doesn't matter. Spiegel News, Angela Merkel, this was her interview. Here's another quote from this interview, by the way. This was according to the BBC, a BBC translation. Here's another quote from this interview. Merkel said, in the summer of 2021, after the meeting between President Biden and Putin, I, together with Emmanuel Macron, once again wanted to establish an independent European format for discussions with Putin in the EU Council. Some objected, but I no longer had the strength to go on. She's already gone. Interesting choice of words. Once again, I wanted to establish an independent European format. In other words, she's talking about a Minsk 3 is what she's talking about. So you had the Minsk 1, you had the Minsk 2, and Merkel's talking about a Minsk 3 now. So basically what Merkel is saying is that because now Merkel was involved in Minsk 1 and 2. So because Merkel, along with, at the time it was, I believe it was Hollande and then Macron, because Merkel was unable unwilling, incapable, devious, because she didn't want to abide by Minsk 1 and 2, of which Germany and France, they were part of that deal, and they were charged with making Ukraine abide by that agreement. Because she couldn't do that for 8 years, in 2021, on her way out, she wants us to believe that poor Merkel was not allowed to broker some sort of peace with Russia and Ukraine. Is that what Merkel wants us to believe? I'm calling BS on this entire interview with Spiegel. I mean, BS. That's utter and complete nonsense. Angela Merkel, the most powerful woman, the most powerful person in the European Union, in the world, one of the most powerful people in the world, she had 8 years to tell Poroshenko and then Zelensky to just follow Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. Just follow those agreements. That's all she had to tell the Ukraine presidents at the time. And then we wouldn't have had this problem. If they had abided by Minsk 1 and 2, if Angela Merkel would have made Ukraine abide by the own documents that they themselves signed, that they signed up to, then Ukraine would have been whole. It would have not have lost Zaporozhye and Kherson. It would have had Lugansk and Donetsk, though it would have granted Lugansk and Donetsk autonomy, but it would have been part of Ukraine in a type of federal system, and it would have had to recognize the Russian language. Actually, every language. It would have had to recognize other languages. If it would have just done that, yeah, it would have recognized that Crimea is Russian, but you wouldn't have had this problem. You wouldn't have had this problem at all if Merkel had just honored her agreements. And now she's coming to Spiegel News, and she wants to tell us that after 8 years of me not enforcing the very agreements that I signed up to, I went to Putin, and he's the bad guy. I went to Putin and I said, "Hey, Putin, I know it's been 8 years that I've been, jerking your chain with regards to Minsk 1 and Minsk 2, and I know that we've been shelling, that I've been allowing the Ukraine military and these Azov guys to rain terror on the Donbass. But let's now come up with a third agreement. You can trust me this time." And then because Putin told her to get lost, she's the victim now. And then she has this quote saying that the only thing that matters to Putin is power. No, that's not true. What matters to Putin is powerful leaders who abide by their agreements, who honor their agreements. Absolutely. Putin did the right thing by telling her to take a hike. Yeah. Because if you were a real leader with real power, you would have enforced the Minsk agreements that you brokered. Let's not forget that in 2015, it was Merkel that wanted a deal. It was Merkel that called Putin and said, "Let's find a deal. Let's end this conflict between the Donbass and Ukraine." Because at that moment in time, the Ukraine military, they were caught up in a cauldron in the Donbass. And there are rumors saying that there was a lot of NATO soldiers caught in this cauldron. I've heard anywhere between a couple of hundred to 1,000 NATO soldiers were actually trapped in a cauldron in the Donbass. This was in 2015. And Merkel, in a panic, she called Putin because she couldn't have had that type of scenario play out where you would have had thousands, hundreds, maybe even thousands of NATO soldiers annihilated in a cauldron. So she called up Putin and she essentially said, "We surrender." And she said, "Let's have an agreement." So anyway, it's an admission from Merkel. It's an admission. This statement is an admission from Merkel that she did not abide by the very agreements that she came up with and that she brokered and that she was tasked with enforcing. And now she wants to play the victim. And she wants to make it seem like Russia's the bad guy, that Putin's the bad guy, because he told her, you have no more power, Angela. You didn't have power then to enforce this. Why should I believe that now that you're on your way out, you're going to have any power to enforce this? What this also shows is that Merkel also hints at the fact that the collective West saw her as powerless. She says the collective West, and she hints at the fact that the collective West, the US and the EU, they saw that Merkel was on the way out, and they also probably knew that whatever deal Merkel would have enforced, that whatever deal Merkel would have came up with, would have never been enforced anyway. And they also said to Merkel, there's no reason for you to broker any kind of deal with Russia, because first of all, you're on your way out and you don't have any power, and so it's useless for you to even try. And second of all, I'm sure the collective West told Angela Merkel there's no use in trying to enforce a deal, because we want escalation. We want to put Russia in the position where they're going to have to escalate with regards to Ukraine. We want to egg Russia on. So anyway, that's this interview from Angela Merkel. She's trying to cover her tracks now. She's trying to distance herself from this, from what she helped create in Ukraine, what she's directly responsible for creating in Ukraine. And let's not forget that it was Angela Merkel that gave us Ursula von der Crazy as well. Because at the time, when Juncker and all these guys were on the way out, Juncker and Tusk and all of these guys, the deal was between Merkel and Macron that Germany was going to get the European Commission. So they were going to get, Angela was going to put in place her defense minister, Ursula, as the EC president, and Macron was going to get the ECB. So he was going to get Lagarde in at the ECB. So that's part of Merkel's legacy, is Lagarde and von der Leyen, the Pirate of Brussels, and all of these people as well. So, man, Merkel, you're not going to pull out the victim card now, are you? Is that what you're trying to do? It is an admission. It is an admission that the collective West, back in 2001, they had already made up their minds that they're going to prepare the way for a conflict. They didn't want the peace. They didn't want any type of negotiations. In 2021, they didn't want a peace in 2015, and so they were their mind was made up. We're going to goad Russia into some sort of conflict in Ukraine. So don't waste your time, Merkel. So that is the interview that Merkel gave to Spiegel News. Before I get to my clown world, which is once again blaming Putin for everything going bad in your country, that's going to be my clown world. Very, very quickly, we have news that the mayor of Kiev, Klitschko, great boxer, awful mayor, terrible mayor, great boxer. He is now telling the citizens of Kiev to get out of the city. Kiev Mayor Vitaly Klitschko urged residents of Kiev to temporarily move out of the capital and to the suburbs of Kiev, wherever there's a stove heat independent water supply. Recent Russian strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure have crippled Kiev's energy infrastructure. So that is Klitschko telling the people of Kiev to get out of the capital. Now, whatever people have the capability of finding something in the suburbs of Kiev with an independent water supply and that is relatively safe, well, they might actually take up Klitschko's advice. But once again, most people, you know what they're going to start to say? You know what they're going to do? They're going to say it's time to get to Poland. It's time to get to Romania. It's time to try and get into Hungary. Though I don't think Hungary is going to be opening the floodgates for a refugee influx. It's time to get to Slovakia. That's what they're going to say. Some are going to try to get to Russia. Some might actually say I want to go to Russia, but 95% of everybody is going to make their way to Europe. That's exactly what's going to happen. So once again, this is a story we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now, and you have another Ukraine politician or Ukraine official, this time the mayor of Kiev, telling people to get out of the city. A couple of days ago, I talked about the CEO of ETHEREUM, the energy company, telling residents of all the major cities, specifically of Kiev and other major cities, to get out for 3 to 6 months, to leave those cities. Now you have Klitschko telling everybody, get out. Leave the city. Get out. So, should we do our clown world? The European Union, by the way, they are trying to get money together so that they can send generators to Ukraine, so that they can fix the substations, the high voltage equipment, so that they can fix that as well and try to get Ukraine's energy back online. But the problem with this is that from what I understand, it's not compatible. Like the Ukraine energy system, the electric grid, is a Soviet legacy electric grid. Very, very well made, very sturdy, really, can hold up and stands the test of time, but it's not compatible with the collective West electric grids. So it's going to be very difficult for the collective West to find the parts and to find the people to restore the electricity in Ukraine. And to make matters even worse, if they do manage to do such a thing, and they do manage to find old Soviet parts and old Soviet equipment and the right voltage and all of these things to restore electricity in Ukraine, in Kiev, in Odessa, Lviv, all these cities, the Russians are just going to take it out again. I mean, that's all that's going to happen. So, since now I was going to do another story. No. Let's. I'll save that for another video. Let's talk about my clown world. Let's wrap this video up, and let's talk about my clown world. And in this clown world, we are going to talk about the UK and the finance minister, Jeremy Hunt. And he is now urging all the people of the UK to cut their energy usage by 15% to defeat Vladimir Putin. This is what UK Chancellor Jeremy Hunt said. The title of this article reads, "Slash energy use at home to beat Putin," urged Hunt. The Chancellor appeals to households as French nuclear reactor delays herald challenging winter. As French nuclear reactor delays herald challenging winter. So, according to the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, the way that they are going to let's walk up this way. The way that they are going to deal with the impending energy crisis is to slash consumption by 15%. And the way that Hunt is packaging this, he is telling the UK citizens, slash your energy consumption in order to defeat Vladimir Putin. How dumb does Hunt think people are? How dumb does he think people are? So he's phrasing this as some sort of a fight with Vladimir Putin, and that's why residents of the UK should slash their energy consumption by 15% in order to combat Vladimir Putin. And he believes that residents of the UK are going to actually buy into this. That is absolutely crazy. That is absolutely crazy. But it also shows you the arrogance of these leaders in the collective West. The arrogance and the stupidity, because they think everyone is dumb enough to believe this, to just absolve Hunt and Sunak and the Tories, the Conservative Party, and all of these elites. They're just going to absolve them of all the terrible mismanagement with regards to the UK economy, to the to the energy supply, to the supply chain, to the sanctions against Russia, to the lockdowns. They're just going to forget about all of that because Jeremy Hunt is telling them that this is some war with Putin. And that's who all the residents of the UK should shift their blame towards. Don't blame it on Hunt. Don't blame it on Sunak. Don't blame it on Bojo. Don't blame it on Truss. It's all Putin's fault. So we want all of the citizens of the UK to cut their energy consumption by 15%. How about if the elites of the UK cut their energy consumption by 50%? How about that? And how about if they stop sending money and weapons to Ukraine and start giving money to the people of the UK so that they can get through this crisis? How about that? That sounds like a much better plan. Anyway, that is the video, guy. Oh yeah, and they can roll back sanctions as well. They can roll back sanctions. There's a quick fix. You want to fix the situation in the UK? You want to fix supply chain issues and oil, gas, energy issues? Roll back the sanctions, Hunt. There's a solution. Anyway, that's the video, guys. The Duran.locals.com. And we are on Rockfin as well. And what else? And go to the Duran shop. That's right, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. This is my Duran sweatshirt. The flag of the great state of Texas is what I am wearing today. 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.